We're going to talk about what kind of self-tan I'm going to use on my legs this year.
We're going to talk about that. Theme, Jumbo Visma Pro Tour domination, that's going to change.
Do you need to go poop before we do this, Atticus?
Probably. He won E3 in Ghent Level last week.
Who is Vingegaard? Who is that guy? Is he new?
Welcome to the Shop Rags Podcast, brought to you by Berkshire Bike and Board, where we aim to take you inside the bike shop. All the good stuff we're chatting about on a daily basis. We thought it'd be fun to record it and put it out to the world, so here goes nothing. So, Spring Classics are happening.
Woo!
They're definitely happening.
Yes.
Cervelo is dominating. Jumbo Visma is dominating.
Is there anyone else racing in these races other than Jumbo Visma?
That is what it feels like a little bit.
Can't count MVP out.
Okay. Steffen has a big thing about MVP. I do agree, although I will say I think MVP more than the rest of the guys has good days and bad days.
Nope.
Okay, talk about his Strade Bianche performance then. It was an absolute spontaneously combusting disaster. He couldn't make it over the hill in my driveway, let alone
too early. Strade Bianche was a warm-up race for him. He's just getting his legs under him. You know, he's come off of the cyclocross world tour where he dominated, and you know every race he entered, he basically won. He's a machine, and the classics is a little different scene because you go from 1 hour of in the red to 5 hours in the orange and then the red.
I'll give you that. I will say I think after the back thing happened, he's 28 years old now, which is ridiculous to think that he's
28?
getting older, but I think he's 28, 29. In the tour, or like the bike racing of today, 28 to 32, you're on the back half of your career.
How old's Wout?
28, 29, same age.
Yeah.
Very similar.
How old's Peter Sagan? 33. He's done.
Peter Sagan's only 33. I think you're wrong.
He's 33, I believe. I looked this up. Whereas Pidcock's like 23. He's on the up. It's moved forward like a decade. It's crazy.
About a decade, maybe 3 or 4 years. Sure.
All right, well, you're talking about Strade Bianche, which isn't on our list for today.
I just think MVP is a wild card. So, like,
just so we're clear, MVP, Matteo Van Der Poel.
MVDP.
What was the one that he just won? Milano San Remo was Pidcock. Van Der Poel just won a big one.
Yeah, he won. I have it written down here because I can't keep all these names straight. Milano San Remo.
Oh, he won Milano San Remo. Pidcock won Strade Bianche. Van Der Poel in Milan San Remo was pretty impressive. He did go off the front. Seemed like a pretty dominating performance.
All these races are melding into one for me. I'm like seeing yellow, literally. Like these Cervelo bikes, I can't tell who's riding them anymore. They're all the same guys to me almost. They're all just.
Let's go back 1 week then.
But the takeaway for those that are watching who have not been watching any of the classics, it has been one of the most exciting classic seasons that we've witnessed. The racing has been amazing. Instead of it just being one dominant player, there's multiple dominant players that on any day could take it. And we'll get into our predictions on Tour of Flanders, but we'll come to that in a second.
Yeah, there's like 3 stars this year. Like it seems like in pro bike racing, you either
more
get
than 3.
There's a whole bunch of not underdogs, but there's a whole bunch of other players that aren't even getting any shine time because the 3 big players, Mathieu Van Der Poel, Wout van Aert, and Tadej Pogacar, are just
Who would be outside
great.
of that 3 for you if you're
Jonas?
Yeah, but he's not a
We're
classic.
talking if we stay in the classics.
Sure. Well, okay. You've got Julian Alaphilippe.
Right.
You can never count that dude out. How many?
He's out. How many races did he win this year?
It doesn't. So he's potentially due. Like the guy.
How many races has he won in the last 2 years?
He's come really close on a lot of races in the last
Really close.
Year.
This is what Lance would say. Really close, ain't it, my guy?
No, you're right. But I'm gonna say you cannot count him out. Yes, there's been 3 dominant players, but there's a lot of guys that are this close. So it'll be Flanders will be an amazing race to watch.
I think the cool thing about bike racing, like you're saying, is it either seems like you have one person who dominates or you have like a ton of randos, where we have this big three for the last like year or so. Any race, if they're in it, you can't count them out. Let's go to E3. So E3 was last week. It's basically the mini Flanders, they call it. Same area, a little bit shorter distance. Basically
took place on a Friday.
I think it was on a Thursday or a Friday. It seemed like it didn't even register on my radar, if I'm being honest. And Jay kept sending me video clips throughout the day, and I was like, what race is he sending me these clips from? And it was amazing. I mean, the three of them went off the front with like 60K to go. So we got Vanderpool, Tade, and Wout. They're all on different teams. I mean, it does not get any better than that.
It doesn't. It was sick. And then I went into the same weekend where they did Gent-Wevelgem.
Well, let's talk about towards
E3?
the end of that race. I want to go a little bit more deeper into
E3?
E3. So the three of them are off the front. They're obviously working together, but like I was watching an interview with Wout, and like they don't really talk. Like the three of them are out in the front of a bike race. They spend a lot of time there together. They don't really talk. Like Wout was like, yeah, we basically give time checks to each other about how far off the front we are, but like that's it.
Because they're all getting it in their ear.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, we got 2 minutes on them, or we got a minute and a half on them. But Wout isn't going, hey, Vanderpool, why don't you take a pull for a few minutes here and then pull off, and I'll take a
Well,
pull.
what I was definitely noticing during that race, so Wout and MVP have a different relationship than Tade. Wout and MVP are cyclocross world champions, both of them. They literally cut their teeth together. I think they both have the same amount of world cyclocross championships. I think both are 4 now, but I could be wrong about this. It's a lot. They're both amazingly dominant players. They have a different relationship where they've been racing together since they were teenagers or younger. So you could see that dynamic when they're racing at the end. They were doing way more pulling. You also got to think about the size difference. Wout and MVP are big dudes in comparison to cyclists.
That's what I'm saying. I think like, yeah, they were doing more work towards the end of that race, but I think Tade is actually a little intimidated by these two, especially when it's him and the two of them. He's like, these guys got 50 pounds on me.
But they're totally different builds, like Steffen's saying. Tade's a little light.
Tade's a World Tour GC contender. He can win the Tour de France
because of the climbs.
Because he's little. He's like 140 pounds versus 170 for Wout. He's like,
yeah, but he's in the classics. He's going to all these races. He's showing up, and he doesn't have the self-control to let people ride away and just like ride the race to ride it. Like he shows up to win, and he's going off the front with these guys because he can make it over these climbs. He can dominate those climbs to get off the front.
And he can suck a wheel, but
he can suck a wheel. But when it comes down to the sprint at the end, he doesn't have it with the big boys.
I once again, I'm not going to count him out because depending on how it ends, like in E3, he was the lead out because they were both sick and tired of him because he tried to pull with a kilometer to go, and they're like, okay, you can stay out there. There's no way you're dropping us now, guy. And so then they just sat on his wheel and made him pull them in, and then it was a sprint basically for Wout and Matteo.
I guess, yeah.
And it's crazy because if they're going 28 to 32 miles an hour into the finish, they're doing 400 watts, probably, give or take. So 400 to 500 watts. Tade's doing 400 to 500 watts a couple minutes into the finish line, which Steffen can't do for 15 seconds. And then they have to sprint 1,200 watts to the line. It's insane, the amount of numbers. Like in the whatchamacallit, what's the Lance Armstrong podcast called? The Move?
The Move.
Lance was saying, like, you know, we're not giving enough credit. Like at Strade Bianchi, there was an 8-person break, and they were out in front for 4 of the 5 hours. They averaged 29 miles an hour. He's like, get a group of your buddies together and go average 29 miles an hour for 100 miles. Like, it is crazy how much work they're doing.
Well, Jay's done something close.
Yeah,
just
20.
They
did 20.
22.
No, I thought it was 25 because you did 100 miles in 4 hours.
No, they did 100 miles in 5 hours.
I thought it was 4 hours.
I don't remember what it is
It was
anymore.
5 hours.
It was too long ago. We got to do it
Never
again.
mind.
Who wants to do it?
Even that's
21.8.
impressive.
The difference between 20 miles an hour and 30 miles an hour is
Two different
massive.
things. Yeah. The aerodynamic drag, what people don't understand is like when, if you follow cycling at all, you constantly hearing about aerodynamics, right? But what people don't understand is that aerodynamics affect you exponentially as you go faster and faster. It gets harder and harder the faster you go. And so that's why aerodynamics for these guys is so important. So I know the UCI is watching this podcast, and so I have a request that these riders have to be mic'd. I want to know what's going on because in E3 at the end, Matteo van der Poel, MVP, was yelling at Tade something fierce, like he was pissed. And I'm like, I want to know what's going on. It would make the racing so much more
I
dynamic.
do like, well, there's like always the conversation of like mic the riders, put the team car radio on. Like F1, you get a little bit of the team car radio. Or show the power numbers, which I think is maybe a little too transparent. But should we go back to the drone? Cyclocross Worlds, they had the drone. I mean, they made watching the bike race.
But they have helicopters in all these races.
That's what, maybe that's more of a cyclocross thing. But like, bike racing has to get more fun to watch.
I don't know.
If we could hear what the riders were saying, that would be amazing.
I wish it was a little shorter, honestly. I mean, yeah, you can tune in for the last hour and a half, which kind of does it, but
a little shorter. But then,
yeah, maybe that's not the answer.
That is what it is. It's cycling. This is the world of cycling. It's an all-day thing.
All right, next, Gent-Wevelgem. Who watched it?
Was that on Sunday?
God, you guys are horrible. That was one on Sunday.
Yeah, it was the Jumbo Visma show.
This was the Jumbo Visma show, like beyond what we've seen. Yeah, this is when where Wout and Christophe Laporte went off the front.
Right.
What I don't understand is how come two guys okay, I understand how Wout can go off the front, but how come Christophe Laporte can go off the front and nobody else can suck one of those two wheels?
But then I think we have to pay attention to who's the chase. Who's in the chase group? Why would the chase group want to catch him? And is there someone? If
Wout and a teammate go off the front, you better damn well be chasing them.
2 minutes.
Because it's two guys who are. It's not like if it's Wout and Van der Poel, like, okay, they're gonna work together, but like they're not gonna talk about it. It's just gonna happen naturally. Whereas if two teammates, one a star and another guy who's super strong, go off the front together, everybody in the peloton better be marking the brake, and nobody did. They couldn't get their together.
Well, yeah, I'm having a hard time keeping all the races straight, but it was Strada Bianche, or was it Milan San Remo, Pidcock won.
Strada Bianche. He accidentally went off the front with 50K to go and stayed off the front.
Because it was a climb, and then he rode away on the descent because he's such a good descender. Right. He extended his lead, which wasn't the plan.
Right. And it was Matthew and Tade and Wout chased
E3.
Not chasing him. But yeah, I'm
Wevelgem was the one where basically Wout and Christophe Laporte, they go off the front on one of the biggest climbs. So they do 3 laps of this one climb. I forget the name of it, but it's like a 1,000-meter, 700-meter cobble climb, super steep. And every year, Wout goes on the second lap on the climb. So everybody in the bike race knew he was going to go on the second lap. And sure as he goes on the second lap, and he takes a teammate with him somehow. And I'm not, I've been in the red before, not be able to chase. But is there everybody in this pro race? Nobody can go with him because I just feel like they should have known.
He's a different human.
Is Christophe Laporte a different human?
Yeah, he's strong. So, like, if with all the variables that are in that bike race, that's the only thing you can plan is within a team. So it's like make a general plan. Like Wout's going to go off the front in the second lap. Take a teammate with them. And then they can work together at least. It's not just a solo effort. And you don't have to depend on, say Wout jumped second lap and took a random rider with him. He can't depend on that random rider to do some pulling.
Jumbo Visma planned it, right? This was Jumbo Visma's plan, textbook. But everybody knew the plan going into it. Like it wasn't a secret. Wout's done it a few years in a row now.
So they all knew it was coming, but they didn't know that Wout was going to be able to bring someone as strong as Christophe Laporte with them to make it.
But then what was so cool about the race is then the last climb, Wout gaps Laporte and waits for him. He sits up and waits for him, and then they do the last, I don't know how many kilometers it was, together, and they knew it before they crossed the line. They're arm in arm, and Wout pushes him across the line ahead of him.
That's one of those things where it's like, damn, if you got the freaking panache to he doesn't need the win. You have that many wins in your career.
He's so dominant, he doesn't need the win. He's a household name in Europe.
Yeah, if there's anybody saying, I'm the best bike racer out there, it's pushing your teammate across the finish line to give him the win. It doesn't happen very often. It was pretty cool. Keeping us going. Do you want to talk about Jonas Vingegaard? Does he even matter this year?
Yes, I think
as much as I love
Vingegaard has been dominating the mini tours.
No, he is not. He dominated Gran Camino, which doesn't matter. He did one race, Paris-Nice, with Tade, and Tade f***ing C in the douches.
I'm not. It's way too early. I think Vingegaard is playing the long game.
Yeah.
I think Tade is not racing smart.
Jonas is watching everyone else blow up.
He's racing like Jason Root.
I don't disagree. I think you are kind of right. It's fun to pick on him a little bit, Jonas Vingegaard, but he's probably got every single chip for the Tour, and he's probably...
My money 100% is on Jonas for the Tour. No question.
Do you think... All right, we're going to do Tour predictions. Are you taking him?
As of right now, yes.
Jay?
Sure, I can jump on that boat. I mean, it's like Jonas Vingegaard doesn't really do it for me. He doesn't really...
No, he's boring.
I don't know what...
It's like Chris Froome. It's just not fun to watch.
I love that he's on the team with Jumbo and Cervelo. That's awesome. He's got... That team is just stacked, but... Yeah, he's probably sandbagging a little bit right now to just
and
make everyone wonder what's going to happen and not blow his legs up.
Freaking blowing the whole thing. Just he can't stop, which is fun.
Did he get the hair thing from Jason, where like the hair's coming out? I think
he's so fun
I think
to
Tade
watch.
got that from Jason Root. Jason Root did it first, I think.
Tade, I would say more than anyone, looks like he's having a lot of fun racing his bike. You know, like, although a couple of races he kind of threw the arms up because he got pinched in the sprint. You guys see that at all?
No.
Yeah, he got pinched in a couple of sprints.
Well, he had a mechanical. He got pissed at his bike, I think.
Yeah.
Tade rides with pure heart. He's riding on ego and heart and just amazing, amazing raw talent. And, you know, maybe he can pull it together when it's time in the Tour, but my money's still on Jonas Vingegaard.
He is
His
fun to
team
watch.
is just so dominant, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves. We got to
Not
get
really.
back to classics.
Well, we're going through the classics. I mean, Grand Camino, okay, Vingegaard dominates, that's fine. Paris-Nice, Tade dominates, that's fine. I'd love to just touch on Primoz Roglic real quick because I think he is just in the background cleaning up.
No.
You don't care.
It's not that I don't care. Every win, he's with 4 or 5 guys, and he just has this much more juice to get him at the line. He's winning by half a wheel on every one of these races. His overall win of that tour, I don't even remember what the tour was, the Catalunya, right, was
him and Remco.
6 seconds.
6 seconds.
No,
He's
it's 10
not,
seconds. He got 6 seconds on one
time
stage.
bonus, right? He's not dominating. He's gonna be
Domestique
domestique for
for
Jonas,
Vingegaard.
and it's one more. Like, they have so many dominant players that when they come together for Jonas for the Tour, they will not be able to be beat.
Does Primoz have the head to be a domestique? Like, I think he got built up too much to be
I hear
downgraded
you, but
to.
he can't deliver, and I think his shine time is now. He gets to go and do these pre-race, and maybe he's going to get to do the Vuelta and
No, he'll do the Giro.
and he gets to do the Giro, right? He gets to do the bookends and win those, and Jonas gets the prime time.
If he does the Giro, is he a domestique in the Tour, or does he take the Tour off?
That's a great question. They might. Well, you know what? I have no idea. But if you're that team director, you want your heavy hitters.
I know, but they're such a roster. The bench is deep.
Deep.
Do they need Primoz in the Tour?
For the Tour, I don't think so. And I feel like that's too much of a like they're not going to put him as their number one.
No.
And does he want to be the number 2?
Has nothing to do with where he wants to.
Johan was talking about maybe they would do co-leaders again. The Tour roster is probably out. I mean, they can still edit it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw both of those names on there. Okay, speaking of Jumbo-Visma, and because we're talking about the Tour, let's just run with it. If Jonas Vingegaard didn't exist, he went back to working in a fish market, could Wout win the Tour?
No.
Yeah. Too heavy.
No.
He's just too big.
It's too big.
Like, even those races where he went off the front, like, miles off the front, if he was marked as a potential winner of the Tour, they wouldn't have let him get away.
No, he might have. Like he won one of the most famous climbs, Mont Ventoux, one year, right? He won, but he has that one stage power to win a race, and we're seeing it right now. He has the 1 day legs to win just about any race. But when you're putting 21 days back to back,
God, he won on Friday and on Sunday last week.
he doesn't. But the climbing is not the same. When you're going sustained grades of 12% for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 miles, it's a different ballgame. That's when you get the Colombians and the these guys that are 140 pounds can do it.
I still think I think Wout could win a Tour de France.
Trust me, I would love to see Wout win the Tour. He's
I think
so
he could.
dynamic. He's so fun to watch.
I think if Van
That's
der
like
Poel,
saying I wanted Peter Sagan to win the Tour. It's just
maybe
Roglic
it's just not meant
has
to
a
be.
better chance of winning the Tour.
Roglic isn't that small. That's the thing. Like, he's not teeny.
He's a 145-pound cyclist.
No, I bet he's more than that. Unless he's short. He's like kind of beefy.
He's got a little bit of mass.
He doesn't look like a puny twerp. Let's put it that way.
What, like a Jonas or a Privas?
Yeah, or Jason Root. Sorry, Jason.
Not even on camera.
All right, let's go to Flanders. So Flanders is this weekend. It's an absolutely awesome bike race. I don't know what the weather's looking like.
Oh, I did a preview.
Tell us the weather.
It's going to be 10 degrees Celsius. So I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's
20th is 50 degrees.
Yeah, it's going to be cold, but there's right now a 65% chance of rain. It actually has come down. It was 80 like 4 days ago, and now it's down to 65. But it's going to be Flemish weather to a T. It's probably going to be just overcast and gross, and the roads will be muddy and wet. And
what's the finish?
It's big and open. It's got the huge open, huge sprint. So 13 kilometers. The last climb, 20% grade. It's a doozy. And then 13 kilometers of nothing.
So
flat,
it's up,
big,
down,
open
and then
road.
flat.
Yeah, there's 20 climbs in this, 19 climbs in the Tour of Flanders. So all of them like cobbles, rugged, some of them over 22% grade. There are a couple famous ones that come closer to the end, which is where a lot of these breaks are going to happen. So if you've got an hour to watch, the last hour is going to be a slugfest, and it's where the race is going to.
I cannot wait. All right. Predictions. You've done some research, which I love. Jay, what happens in Tour of Flanders this weekend?
I kind of have to say that Mathieu van der Poel is going to probably take it.
How?
I feel. I have no idea.
Big up, big down, 13K flat. How does Van der Poel take it?
He's just going to...
He's won it, 2 times before. He
Nip
won it
it.
in 2020 and last year.
All right.
Last year and
Yeah,
2020.
not 2021.
I don't really
missed 2021.
know what I'm going on, but I just like kind of a gut feeling. I feel like Wout he had a big weekend the past weekend, and I don't know. I just don't know how these guys can do it every weekend, and this is what happens. They just shuffle back and forth between one person winning it one weekend and giving up to the other one. So
Steffen Root, I know you got a prediction. You got a freaking. You got some opinions.
I love MVP. But I don't think he's got it 2 years in a row. I'm giving it to Wout, and my guess is to Wout. Plus, I'm a little biased. MVP rides a Canyon. Canyon's direct to consumer. It's a shop no. Or basically, whereas Wout rides a Cervelo. We're Cervelo dealers, so I'm changing my allegiance to Wout.
Okay, you give Wout
I want
the W.
Wout to win.
How?
I think.
How does he get the win?
So, 50 kilometers to go. There's a climb called the Patersburg, which is 20 degrees at the steepest, average gradient of 13. It's where the race starts to become dynamic, and then basically from there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 8 climbs that he's one of those climbs. He's going to break away and will stay away. Which one it is, I can't tell you, but he's gonna make a jump. He's going to punch. It will not be a sprint finish like it was last year.
Disagree. You think Wout is going to get away from Tade on a climb?
Yes.
Not happening.
It's a long race. It's muddy. Tade could have an issue. Could have mechanical. Could crash. My money is Wout will come across the line by himself.
Tade's riding Shimano.
sprint.
Wout's riding SRAM. Who's more?
So Wout's bike's definitely breaking. All right. I'm going. My turn. I'm gonna choose Tade, but I will say the only way Wout wins if it comes down to a sprint at the end, which I think could happen. I think Tade has what you're saying. I think Tade could go off the front on one of these climbs towards the end and do the up and down a la Tom Pidcock and just barely hold on by the chin of his chinny chin for the last 13K by himself. I'm going Tade.
It's probably a smart bet, but I definitely don't think Tade can hold him off.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
We'll see what happens. So we're watching this race on Sunday here at the shop.
Yeah, and if I only knew what time, it's
It's all the same. They all start at like 5 in the morning our time, and then they finish around 11 o'clock. So it's like perfect. You wake up, you have coffee, you freaking take the dog out for a poopy time, and then you want to finish the bike race.
Are we going to schedule it so we can all have a little bit of GCN time in the morning while we're at home making our
I know,
coffee?
that's the worst part, is sharing the password.
GCN's got it. It's on GCN.
Let's talk about Cervelo real quick.
How's your R5?
It's sick, but they don't ride them at all.
That's not true. You know who rides the S5?
Who?
Jonas?
Primos.
No. R5.
R5.
Primos
rides the R5.
Yeah, but they're
Okay,
all
that
riding.
makes
They're all
sense.
mixing them up
Wout
depending on the
rides the S.
stages.
Wout rides the S5, I feel like, exclusively. So do we think the bike has anything to do with the jumbo domination in the classics? Because they're riding at
course.
every race.
SRAM, the best componentry in the world.
I still
best
think
bike
the
brand in the
handlebars are
world?
wonky. I saw my first one in person in the city this weekend, and I was like, in person it looks kind
The
of cool.
handlebars are cool. You know what? It's
good.
cool. It's
a
definitely
super bike.
different. Yeah, it's a super bike. It's like an elite. It's like a Ferrari. It's so off the front. It's so unique, so different.
What size tires do you think they're riding on these classics?
25s.
Are they riding 25s?
28s.
What does Tade run? I want to see what Tade is running because he's running a big tire. He's running something bigger
They
than
might
28.
be running a 28 on a big rim.
Tubular.
Yeah, if there's cobbles, I'm wrong. They're definitely running 28s, maybe even 30s.
I feel like Tade runs a really big tire. I don't know why.
And really low pressure.
I don't know.
That would be something interesting to find out, because I don't think they're subscribing to the same philosophy that we're talking about at the bike shop, that a bigger tire at a lower pressure is faster.
You're not correct, because I remember doing this research for the Roubaix, and they were all running 28s. Jason actually is going to put a note here right underneath the video that actually tells us what size these guys are running for tires. He can do the research, implement it later while we're talking about it. So you will know now, whereas we don't get to know. So
Yeah. All right. I think we wrap it up, yeah? It's good to keep it short and sweet. Jason's giving me a thumbs up. So that is the Shop Rags podcast, all about Spring Classics, kind of in the middle of the Spring Classics. We cannot wait for Flanders. We're going to do a big bike ride waffle party on April 23rd. Like I always say, if you like what you saw, thumbs up, subscribe, like. It helps us out tremendously. And to wrap it up, like Steffen Root likes to say, round up for distance, round up for time. Thanks for watching.
one more thing. If you want some sweet biking board merch, just go to the website. We got sweet hoodies, all sorts of fun, cool stuff.
Shameless plug.
Always got to put in the shameless plug.
Good deal. We're done.
Bye.
That was
Peace.
good. Ripped it.
Did we rip it?
We ripped it. It was great.